Shalom, giving all praises to Yahawah, Shemel, Shaiba, Shemokah, Qadash, and Shalom to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect out there, the hopeful elect. Shalom to you all. Anyway, I'm going to entitle this video, "You have to know that you're an Israelite before you begin to keep or even understand the law." So here you got the IUIC Philadelphia, and they've been to other churches. They're going to church, and they're basically putting the cart before the horse. They'll tell them, "You are Israelites, and you got to keep the laws." It doesn't work that way. You don't just tell somebody you're an Israelite. They hasn't even registered that they're Israelites yet. You got to explain to them that they're the Israelites. And once they understand that they're line based upon lineage, not spiritual Israelites like the Christians teach, you have to make them understand that we are the descendants of the Israelites, the actual Israelites, by lineage, by genealogy, by the flesh. These guys are saying, "You're Israelites and keep the laws. You got to keep the laws." They're going off. They're going off. They have a zeal toward the Most High. IUIC has a zeal toward the Most High, but not according to knowledge. And that should have been the topic anyway. That should have been the name of the topic. Because they'll say 3, 4, 5 words, and they'll, "Oh, you got what? You ain't keeping the law." And then you can see the man's arms folded, right? They're doing pretty good. They got a nice little established church. So they're making enough money to pay the rent. They got an actual church, got a room for a bunch of congregants, and they're living pretty good. They're not a mega church, but these set up churches, church buildings, they make good money, decent money. They make a good living. All right. So I don't know what he's an older gentleman. He's a grown man, but he's a little bit younger than this individual right here. So I don't know what positions they have. I'm assuming if they're not the heads or the pastors or whatever, they're in the top position. But anyway, so I'm watching this, and so it says, "Church sit down, the angry and confused Christian pastors." Well, they wouldn't be angry and confused if you didn't, if you had broke the scriptures down the right way. You can't start with throwing the law in their face. When you read Colossians 2, verse 16, when you read Acts chapter 15, I'm not going to go into that. I may go into that a little bit later in this video. I'm not going to make this long. The main thing we're supposed to tell our people are that they're the Israelites. And that, so they might say, "Well, how does that relate to the Messiah, to the Christ?" Because the Messiah was an Israelite. And they'll say, "Yes, he was. He was a Jew." Then you might go into, "Well, who are the real Jews?" Well, them people over there in the land of Israel, tell them, "Nope, they're imposters. They're not the people." And you can use Revelation 2:9. And then you show them in the scriptures the color of the Messiah, the color of the Heavenly Father in Daniel 7, the color of the Israelites. You may show them some icons. And then eventually they'll see, and they'll say, "Well, they didn't know that. All they knew was the people of Israel, the Messiah, the Apostle Paul were all white people." Or another thing, you can go to what is that? Acts 21:37, if I'm not mistaken. Hadn't gone through it in a long time. As a matter of fact, let me do this. Let me go to another. Bear with me for a minute. Okay, I want to go to favorites. I want to open up another King James tab. I know it's in the book of Acts. I'm almost positive it's in the book of the 21st, the 21st chapter, Acts 21. Okay, I think I said 30, not even said 37 or 38. So I'm going to go right to the point. And as Paul was to be led into the castle, oh, by the way, when you read up above this, I don't want to go too far up. Paul sees in the temple. And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Jews which were of Asia, when they, now remember we were scattered and we were keeping, you had two types of Israelites. You had ones that knew that they were Israelites, that lived outside the lands, but kept the law, statutes, and commandments. They kept the Deuteronomy 16 and 16. They had the pilgrimage 3 times out of the year. And then you had the Israelites that didn't know that they were Israelites, like Cornelius. Cornelius was not brought up as an Israelite, and he found out that he was an Israelite. It says, so the Israelites that knew that they were Israelites looked down on them and didn't consider them as even being Israelites. It says when they saw him in the temple, stirred up all the people and laid hands on him. Now, you know what I got to do? Let me do this. There's a lot of reading in this thing. I just want to hit the points. 25th verse, Acts 21, verse 25. As touching the Gentiles which believe. So what does it mean as touching the Gentiles which believe? We already know it's talking about Israelites. Perfect example, Cornelius, someone that didn't know that they were Israelites, that came to the realization that they were Israelites. So they were being called Gentiles. We have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, save only that they keep themselves from things offered to idols. So Paul never told them, look, you got to keep all the laws. And from blood and from strangled animals, you got to drain the blood, and you got to the strangle meaning the animal was put to death a certain way, like a goat, the head was chopped off. And from what? Fornication. Because fornication is a what? A sin unto death. Fornication means what? Adultery. When you come across the word fornication in the New Testament, the word there is adultery. It says, then Paul took the men. Remember, these were Israelites in the Gentile state of mind that began to believe. So they probably had tattoos on them. They had funny haircuts. You know, they were not wearing fringes. They were wearing the clothing. They might have had ate a pork dinner. So they didn't even look like our people. Then Paul took the men, and the next day, purifying himself with them, entered into the temple to signify the accomplishment of the days of purification, until that an offering should be offered for every one of them. So he purified them. So he took these people in the temple, which they were not actual Gentiles, natural Gentiles, they were Israelites in a Gentile state of mind that was coming back to who they were. I keep mentioning Cornelius. So as you can see, Paul didn't say, okay, you got to keep all the laws now. It doesn't work that way. It's just like somebody in the first grade. You're gonna have a college professor teaching them college course. They're not ready for it. That's why you have levels to this thing. And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Jews, which were of Asia, they were outside of Jerusalem, when they, or any of the lands of Israel, when they saw him in the temple, stirred up all the people and laid hands on him. They laid hands on Paul. We said, what the hell is this guy doing bringing heathens in there? But they were not heathens. And he purified them. He said, crying out, men of Israel, help. This is the man that teaches all men. What does it mean by all men? All Israelites, whether they're Gentile minded or not, everywhere. That, see, and then you got a Christian say, it says all men, all men. It's talking about all Israelite men, women, and children. Everywhere against the people and the law and this place, and further brought Greeks. They were called Gentiles, and then they were also called Greeks. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation. She was an Israelite. Also into the temple, and had polluted this holy place. They didn't pollute the holy place because did not Paul purify them? Did not Paul purify them? We go to the word purify. Then Paul took the men, and the next day, purifying himself with them, entered into the temple to signify the accomplishment of the days of purification, until that an offering should be offered. An offering should be offered, purification, for every one of them. So he made sure they wasn't unclean, they didn't have sex, that they were purified. And when you enter the temple, you can't enter the temple if you went before a dead body. You can't enter the temple if you were around your woman when she was on a period. You can't enter the temple if you had sex with a woman, because you were unclean until the evening. At that evening, you become purified. You wash yourself. The act of sex, when you have sex with a woman, you and the woman supposed to wash yourselves and wash the blankets and everything. So let's come back over here. And since I'm going into the law, Paul kept the laws. Paul kept the Mosaic law. Look up the word purification. Look up the word offerings. But he told them, these are the laws that you should keep about eating certain animals. You can't eat it with blood. You can't strangle. You can't commit adultery. And he made sure none of them guys were around a dead person or had sex, or whatever made them unclean until the evening. He made sure that they were clean. So he was keeping the Mosaic law. But he didn't make them keep all of them. Let me find my place. So they said, these Greeks, these Gentiles are come with their unclean self. They polluting the holy place. For they had seen before with him in the city, Trophimus, and an Ephesian, whom they supposed that Paul had brought into the temple. And all the city was moved, and the people ran together, and they took Paul and drew him out of the temple, and forthwith the doors were shut. They literally threw him out. And as they went about to kill him, they're going to kill him. He said, we're going to kill this nigga. Tidings came unto the chief captain of the band that all Jerusalem was in an uproar, who immediately took soldiers and centurions and ran down unto them, and when your cops, and when they saw the chief captain and the soldiers, they left beating of Paul because the police came. Then the chief captain, and Paul said he was a Roman, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm coming right down to here. It's 36, for the multitude of the people follow after, crying, away with him. And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, may I speak unto thee? And he spoke to him in fluent Greek, who said, canst thou speak Greek? Art not thou that Egyptian? We don't got to read no more. When you call them Egyptians, the original Egyptians are black people. So the Apostle Paul had to be black. And if you can't see that, you walk away from the guy. So you can show them that. You ask them, what color are the original Egyptians? Even in certain movies that they made, even Esau made about the ancient Egyptian, he made them black. And I'm not talking about the time of the Ten Commandments movie with Charlton Heston, but in that movie, there was a scene where they had the different nations that had to come down before the pharaohs, and then they had the Canaanites, and they had one of the actors that played a Canaanite on one of the so-called Hamitic tribes was an actor by the name of Woody Strode, and I believe he was a Reubenite, but he was a dark-skinned. He played for the NFL back in the day. He's a big, strong guy, and he became an actor. And he goes way back. He goes back 30s, 40s. He goes way back. So he played. I believe he was either Canaanite, one of the African tribes. I believe he was a Canaanite, but they had the Egyptians playing white people. The Egyptians wasn't white. The Egyptians were black, just like the Canaanites. They were brothers, had the same father. So if you can get a Christian to acknowledge that the ancient Egyptians, 2,000 and more years ago, 5,000 years ago, however you want to go back, yes, the original the Egyptians are black. And you might explain to them, the people over there in Egypt that run Egypt are Ishmaelites, Arabs. And they have color to them. They have a hue to them, but they're not the Egyptians. You can also explain to them that the actual Egyptians are living in North and South Sudan. And you can show them pictures how the Sudanese people look like the ancient Egyptians. So if a church, a Jagan church, can acknowledge that, then you tell them, well, wait a minute. So why did this captain refer to mistaken Paul for Egyptian? You said the Egyptians are black, right? So what color did Paul have to be? Was Paul white? Then if he has some sense in his head, which most of them don't, he'll say, yeah, Paul had to be black. So good. So now you go back to yourself. Well, what color are you? I'm black. Really, you're brown. So then you'll say, they might say, well, there's many nations of people that are black. And you say, yeah. You say you got the Hamites, you got the Ishmaelites, you got the Cushites, you got the Persians, which are the people of Iran. You got the Aborigines, and then you tell them that where did all these people come from? You get them to understand that they came from the three sons of Noah. Who's the majority of the people on the planet Earth? What is the color of the people, the majority of people of the Earth? They'll say dark-skinned people. If they can't see it, get pictures of India, get pictures of this, that, the other, Vietnam, Thailand. The majority of the people on the planet Earth are so-called people of color. And then you make them acknowledge, you say they all came from either Ham, Sham, or Japheth. Then you go down the line. If the majority of them were dark, then what color was Noah? And they would have to say he was dark, because dark genes are dominant. So that's the only way you got to, you're not even going to go into the law. You're not going to go into the law, period. See, that's what y'all don't know what the hell y'all doing. You got to first make them understand that they're Israelites, and then they already know that the Messiah is an Israelite. So now they can say, oh, well, we're the same nation as our Lord. And then you tell them, well, the Lord, he came for everybody. Okay, I'll go with that. I'll go with that for right now. But who did he come for first? And there's precepts on that. The Jews first, right? Did that change? No. So you tell them that the Messiah came for the Jews first, and then the Gentiles. And then eventually you ease them into the fact that the Gentiles, through the precepts, that the Gentiles are actually, that the Lord came for to save, were the Israelites that were scattered. You got a whole bunch of scriptures on that. You ain't even talking about the Lord. The word law ain't even coming out of your mouth yet. You guys are putting the cart before the horse. And that's why you don't get success with these churches. So y'all don't know what the hell y'all doing. So anyway, let me come back over here. So this is what the dude said, right? So I'm going to let you listen. You have need that one teach you again. What these guys do, these IUIC guys, they get a precept package. They're taught what the scriptures are, but all they do is regurgitate what they learn. Just like Vocab Malone. Anytime you see Vocab Malone, he had to debate with Captain Desariac. What did he do? He's regurgitating that theological mumbo jumbo, and then he would bring out a book. And this author said this, and this Saint Ignatius, he said that. So basically, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're just regurgitating the crap that you learned. Because Vocab really doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know. He's clueless. He's clueless. And so are these guys. Because watch the reaction. Watch the reaction from this individual right here. First of all, he got his arms folded. Like when somebody folds their arms, you go ahead and tell me what you're saying. I'm not going to believe what you're saying. So let's listen. Let's listen.
Statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Did not listen to the commandments. Read verse.
There they go. You got to keep the commandments. They're going off. They're putting the cart before the horse. That's why when they did them church blitzes, the first thing that they say, it's Sunday. Sunday ain't the real Sabbath. Saturday is the real Sabbath. Friday, sundown, they said, which they're wrong on that. The Sabbath ain't no Saturday. Friday, sundown, and Saturday, sundown. The Sabbath is based upon a new moon. But because they listened to, the last Passover 23 came in on that horse, the Most High must be dealing with him. And you go to that when you come in the horse, it looked like the horse wanted to throw, watch the video again. It looked like the horse wanted to throw Nate off of himself. Like he kept frittering and Bishop Nate was all nervous. The horse like, who the fuck is on my back? Who foul spirit is on my back? So come on.
Verse 15.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not.
So they go right into the laws, which you went totally over these individuals' heads. You went way up to goddamn the planet Saturn. You went over their heads. You went completely over their heads. You didn't identify them as being Israel. You didn't go into the scriptures and show them that the Israelites of the Bible are people that look like you. And I gave you a quick example. Then you get them interested in the laws. Don't come. The laws come, you know, way after they acknowledge that they're Israelites. They're not going to acknowledge that they're Israelites. But listen to what this man's going to say.
Hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Okay, so, yes, sir.
What are you living under?
What am I living under? I'm living under the laws of God. There was a period.
Grace.
We living under the laws.
No, I'm living under grace.
Okay.
I'm not going back to the law.
Okay.
Because the law in itself wasn't good enough to do anything. That's why Jesus came. The law was not to save us, only to show us our error.
All right.
So if you want to go to the law, you can stay with the law. I'm in grace. When Jesus came, the law was done away with as far as trying to make you to be who God wanted you to be. Now the way to become, we have to come through the blood. What blood? The blood that was shed. He came from heaven. You can quote me all you want about Abraham. Abraham didn't die for you. You can quote me all about Paul, any of them. They didn't die for you. Jesus did. So let's point to him. Let's not go back to that. Let's go to where he started it at. When he came down here, why did he come down here?
Let's get that. Let's get that in Matthew 15, 24.
Don't let him read that.
No.
From yourself.
I for myself is void of understanding. My understanding is from this book.
But the Bible says
what I understand and believe is from this book.
The Bible says. The Bible says that when you are asked a reason for your hope or whatever, you're supposed to give somebody an answer.
I am going to give you an answer.
You're not giving it to me. You're telling him to give it to me.
No, I'm not.
I'm asking you, what's the reason for your hope?
Matthew 15, 24.
Read it, please read it.
There you go. That's how we communicate. We communicate with the words, with the, yes.
Right, okay.
Right. So remember, Christ, why did he come here for? That
was my question.
Read on.
Yeah. Matthew chapter 15, verse 24. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
So Christ only came on the face of this earth.
Let's go to John.
To save.
Let's go to John.
Well, can I finish? Can I finish answering the question?
Let's go to John. Though.
He came to save the lost tribe of Israel. Okay. He did not come to save everybody. And just before you came, Dr. Brown stated that about Paul. Paul himself identified himself as a Jew.
Okay, fine.
As an Israelite. He identified himself.
Paul being a Jew did not save me.
But so since we came, you allowed you to speak.
Come on.
We merely just brought out 2 scriptures explaining who we are. And you just came out and disagreed with everything. But this is what we welcome. We welcome this discourse because the concept about who we are has been tarnished by a lot of people that is not learned properly, the correct way. So the Israelites may have a bad rapport, but as men of understanding, as men that do observe the law, is a level of discipline that Most High has instilled in us.
You're talking about do observe the law, and there's a lot. You're putting a cart before the horse. Once again, you're not at first thing first. you show him that he's an Israelite. And then you show him that the Lord only came for the Israelites. And then the law comes down the track, then down the pike. So y'all got it backwards, man. Like I said in previous videos, all those church pledges that y'all did, y'all didn't get not one person to come follow y'all. This individual, I'm telling you right now, y'all might as well get up and leave, because he ain't gonna come follow y'all. He ain't gonna come follow y'all. And you heard what he said. If you pull it back, I don't know, about 4 minutes or so. He said, you're under the law, I'm under grace. Right? And then he said, why did the Lord come down? Why did the Messiah come down? He said, to do away with the law. You heard what he said. So now you're into an argument on the law that he says, well, the law is done away with. That means he can wear a dress. They can come next week and wear a dress, and nobody can judge him on that. You know? He can lay down with a man. He can lay down with a man. He can lay with any woman in the congregation, whether they married or not, because that goes into the laws of the scriptures. So he said, I'm under grace. I can do whatever I want to do. So now, being that he said that, the scriptures, like I said, y'all approach it totally wrong. This is what the scriptures say. As soon as he said grace, this came to my mind. I'm not going to make this long. I'm getting ready to cut it short. Believers are dead to sin, alive to the Most High. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin? Now, does he know what the word sin means? Sin is a transgression of the law. First John 3, verse 4. Matter of fact, I'll go to it. Whosoever committeth sin transgresses also the law. Sin is a transgression of the law. Jump down to 7. Little children, let no man deceive you. He that doeth righteous is righteous, even as he is righteous. He that committeth sin, which is a transgression of the law, is of the devil. For the devil sinneth from the beginning. So that the word sin is to go against the laws. All these guys had to do, these men had to do, is go back to the basics. That's all they had to do. But being that he said grace, I'm under grace, and the law is done away. Grace doesn't mean the law is done away with. You can do what the hell you want to do, as long as you call on Jesus. And by the way, that's not even his name. And so what shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin? Which means what? Breaking the law, that grace may abound. So he's saying in not so many words, I'm under grace, so I can do whatever the hell I want to do. The Most High forbid. How shall we that are dead in sin live any longer therein? Sin meaning the transgression of the law. You start to keep the laws, but you grow into the laws. That's why the Apostle Paul in Acts 21 said to those men that he purified, he said, don't eat animals that have been strangled. Don't eat animals that have blood in it. Drain the blood. Don't commit fornication or adultery. And he said something else. I forget what he said. I can go back to it. It says, know ye not that so many of us as were baptized into Yahawashi HaMashiach were baptized unto his death. Therefore, we are buried with him. Let me get right to the point. So Paul is talking to the Israelites in Rome, both the ones that believe and mainly the ones that don't believe. The Israelites in the Gentile state of mind. It says, let not sin therefore reign in your mortal body, that ye should obey it in the lust thereof. Neither yield ye your members as instruments of unrighteousness unto sin. So they heard about the grace part, but they didn't understand that, oh, we're under grace, so we can commit all the sins that we want. Every once in a while, we'll ask the Lord to forgive us, and we'll move. It doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. So what these men did, although they come in sincerity, these men got to use their own brains, man. What the IUIC is known for is regurgitating the stuff that they learned from the heads, or really from Bishop Nate. Have it, like I said, if you would have asked any of these guys about the lake of fire, they would have said the lake of fire is eternal hell, and the Israelites burn. There's certain Israelites, the 2/3 or whatever the case may be, is going to burn in hell forever. That's not in the scriptures. They teach that because Nate taught them that, and they didn't question it, man. They do not have the spirit of the church of Berea on them. And Paul highly honored the church of Berea over the church of Thessalonica, which is about 40, 50 miles away. Because he said, I like you guys, I respect you guys, because you don't take my word for face value. You go and check what the hell I said. And tell me that the IUIC, members of the IUIC, double check the head leader of the IUIC. They don't. And I guarantee you, there's still them. If they bring up the lake of fire, they'll still say it's talking about an eternal hell, because they didn't see the video. Maybe they did. I don't know if Nathaniel, whatever his name is at this particular time, he changed it up because we've been getting on his ass. We've been getting on him about it. So he looked at it, and he got into the mind of the church of Berea, and he checked it out, and he said, you know what, GMS is right. I'm gonna change it up, but I'm not gonna say sorry to GMS. They were right on the Cornelius thing. I'm gonna teach the Cornelius as an Israelite, but I'm not gonna say I went off on it because of his goddamn pride. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. With that, I'm gonna say Shalom. You know what? I kept quoting Hebrews, right? Let me go to Hebrews. Hebrews 5. For the times ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. Now, the grape doctrine, you know what the grape doctrine is? Is strong meat. That's why to this day, 10 years later, they're still choking off of it. Anytime it's brought up, they choke on it. For everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them that are full age. So if these guys were actually of full age, they wouldn't get emotional about the grape doctrine. Even those who, by reason of use, have their senses exercised, mind, heart, to discern both good and evil. So they don't know how to discern both good and evil from good and evil. That's why they say when we teach about the grape doctrine, they say that the GMS they're wicked, they're evil, because they're teaching that, not realizing that they're really going against the Most High. And then they're taken away from the word. And then anytime you take away from the word, you have to add something there. If you say, well, that don't mean that, somebody is going to say, well, what does it mean? Well, it means this. So they're guilty of taking away from the word and adding something else to it. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say Shalom.